Mere Conservatism.
That's David Perry, and I'm Cleve Walker, and this is Mere Conservatism.
Lots of intrigue out there, and on the podcast we'll go over some of that. I do know, Cleve, what it's like for your daughters to choose to choose somebody over you. It's heartbreaking. I've got a 2-year-old, her new thing, and I swear I've got a 2-year-old. She is smart, and she loves to taunt me and tweak me.
Oh, my goodness.
You know what she'll do? I go to pick her up, and she'll go, Mommy, 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 over and over again.
Rubbing it in.
I'm Daddy.
Yeah,
Mommy,
rubbing
Mommy,
it in
Mommy.
if you're not Mommy.
Yeah, it's like not the mama. The you remember the
I
baby
remember
dinosaur?
One of my favorite episodes.
That's what it's like at my house right now. My 2-year-old's messing with me.
Well, let me start off. Let's start off with a good news story. To me, something that is positive, at least from our point of view of conservatism. A Virginia teacher resigned during a school board meeting after stating that she strongly opposed what she called the politicized agendas that are being pushed on staff and students at the school. And of course, I'm talking about the Loudoun County School Board. We talked about that last time. But this happened just recently at a public hearing on policies regarding the treatment of transgender students, okay? She comes out, her name was Laura Morris. She's been a school teacher at the school for 5 years. She said, "This summer, I struggled with the idea of returning to school knowing that I'll be working yet again with the school division, but despite its shining tech and flashy salary, which is pretty good for that school, their political ideologies do not square with who I am as a believer in Christ. Within the last year," David, I love this part. This is almost like a Patrick Henry moment to me. "Within the last year, I was told in one of my so-called equity trainings that white Christian able-bodied females currently have the power in our school and that quote has to change." She said, "Now, clearly you've made your point. You no longer value me or many other teachers you've employed in this county. Since my contract outlines the power you have over my employment in Loudoun County, I thought it necessary to resign in front of you. School board, I quit. I quit your policies, I quit your training, and I quit being a cog in a machine that tells me to push highly politicized agendas on our most vulnerable constituents, children." Powerful.
Good.
I mean, this is public. This is on camera. I didn't want to bring out the audio because her voice is breaking. She was so emotional at this point. David, that's powerful. And that is what we, talking about on our side of the culture wars, have to do.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's going to take that from some people to make that difficult decision and that sacrifice. She has just sacrificed her job,
Her career,
for what she believes is right. I believe that she's probably going to land on her feet. She could probably get a job teaching somewhere. I hope that she'll be able to do that, or something else that she may want to do. However, the point is, we are going to be called at some point to sacrifice things for what is true and what is right. And you might say, what does it cost her? Really, what does it cost her to stay in that school system where they're pushing critical race theory and telling people that, yes, if you feel like a girl, you are a girl when it's really a boy, and those kinds of things. And one of the big things that it costs people in those situations is the truth.
Yeah.
Which is a big cost. And it's a cost that a lot of people are just not willing to pay.
Because they've been told, if you dare speak up, you will pay the cost. And this gal was willing to take them at their word and say, yes, I'm willing to pay the cost. But most people, she knows she has colleagues who are afraid to say anything about that agenda. So it's going to take that. And I'll tell you what, if more and more do that, David, it's going to be a victorious thing to do.
Yeah. Well, and I will say, I'll give one criticism.
Okay.
This is my opinion.
Okay.
I say make them fire you.
Okay. Gotcha.
So in my opinion, I think it's better to stay and stand your ground and stand up for what's right and make them come for you.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Other people may feel like they need to just resign. That's fine too. But I had this conversation with somebody who was a nurse, and they are being mandated to get the vaccine, and they didn't feel like they could do that. Mm-hmm. And so they're trying to figure out what to do. They're trying to figure out if they could do a religious exemption or something like this, but they feel strongly that they don't want to get the vaccine. And they have their reasons, and we could go into that later.
We will go.
Oh, okay. But they're saying I may just have to resign. I may just have to quit. And I'm saying don't do it. Make them fire you. Mm-hmm. If you don't want to get the vaccine, make them publicly terminate you. Now I think that's the better thing to do, because I feel like you let them off the hook for their decisions when you do it yourself.
Well, the only problem with that decision, and I speak from a personal connection now. I mentioned to you off the mic that my daughter is a traveling nurse, and they actually go to different hospitals to make up the shortage that are showing up in our hospitals. And she is not going to take the vaccine and has decided that if they ask her to, then she wouldn't be able to continue. And she's chosen to be involved now in a telemedicine job where you don't have to be in contact with your patients. And that's a side thing, but she's connected that to make up the difference when the time comes. But the reason I can understand some nurses saying, I don't want to be fired, is that goes on your record in a sense that you quit. And that can be seen before you even investigate what's happening as a negative on your record. Whereas if you're fired, whereas you resigned, then you're leaving on your own terms.
I got you.
And there's nothing on your record that they can come back and point.
I hear you. That makes sense. That makes sense. So maybe it lessens the blow just a little bit.
Well, just a little bit. And then on principle, and this is what this teacher was saying, I want it to be on record that I am totally against what you want us to do, and I cannot in good conscience be identified by it in any way. Mm-hmm. And so basically she's just saying, I want to out you. It's what I'm doing this for. So it's just one of those things. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's going to take people standing up and just not complying.
Right.
We're just going to have to say, in some cases, I will not comply.
Because the whole thing is, now we know about the cancel thing where they're taking expressions and opinions like this off the website and social media, especially the vaccination thing. The only thing that Facebook will let you say about the vaccination thing is something either supportive or at least, not in any way denying that people need to get vaccinated. Otherwise, it pops up with their little disclaimer.
Yeah, you have to be really careful now what you say about vaccination.
Now, I want to ask you, since you brought it up and you kind of led into this, which is great, because we're talking about vaccine mandates now. And some countries are already doing this. Some countries their governments are already doing this. At this point in time, our government is not our federal government anyway, at least not for private citizens. They're doing it for federal agencies and whatnot. What is the response, and why do you respond against the idea of vaccine mandates? Or
you just assume I'm against vaccine mandates?
Well, I'm going to ask you then, what do you think about vaccine mandates and the idea of vaccine passports, which is the bigger issue to me? Go on.
Vaccine passports, I will say, are basically vaccine mandate light.
Okay.
So it's kind of the same thing. Yeah. They would basically keep you from doing anything you want to do. If you're not, they're shunning you from society with that. So I kind of put them in the same category. The mandates are bad, and the reason why is because what you're doing is you're asking somebody to inject chemicals into their body that carry risk, and that's unjust.
Right.
It's unjust to force somebody to do that.
And now, I agree with you, but I don't even if it didn't carry any risk, I don't think anybody should have the right to ask you to inject anything. I mean, even if it was proven,
or drink anything or eat anything,
even if it was proven to be 100% safe and effective, nobody should have the right to tell you what to do with your medical decisions.
Now, however, I will say that if you work in a business and your boss says everybody that works here has to be vaccinated, they may have exceptions or something like that. That's different. I still don't agree with that.
Would you continue working there?
But that's different. Depends on what the job was.
Oh, okay.
Depends on what the job was. Because I do think that there are some jobs where it really makes sense you need to be protected in one way or the other.
Okay.
That's a little off course.
It
but
is.
Let me get back to what we were talking about. The vaccine mandate from the government is absolutely unjust. It's unconstitutional. You can't do it. It's not right to do it because you just can't make somebody get medicine, especially this medicine. I mean, really anything, but especially this one, something that's not FDA approved even.
It's still experimental.
Something that's pretty new. It's experimental,
Yeah.
and you say that, and people will freak out when you say that it's experimental. But just by its nature, that it's new and that it's not FDA approved and all that stuff, you can legitimately call it experimental. And it does have risks.
Yeah.
All vaccines carry some risk with them. And so they want to act like the vaccine is completely fine and there's no reason you wouldn't get one other than just being a denier or something like that. And that's just not true. Here's the thing. And by the way, I'm pro-vaccine. I'm not anti-vaccine of any kind.
You're talking about the principle
I'm
again.
talking about the principle
Yeah.
of it. Here's the truth. The truth is the vaccine carries risks. If you're going to get the vaccine, there are some risks that come along with it, and they're documented, and you can find those things. COVID also has risks. So what a normal person does, what a normal person should be allowed to do in a free country is weigh their risk. Would I rather risk COVID or risk the vaccine? And then make their decision.
Okay.
This is new. I mean, they don't know everything.
Right. It's not FDA
So they're
approved.
learning. They're figuring it out.
Yeah.
And you can go online and you can find how many people have had adverse reactions to the vaccine and what type of reactions there were. But there are people that experience bad reactions.
Oh, I know some people personally. So, but I want to ask you this because this is the question I really was leading to. The biggie to me. I've got a niece who's in the Navy, okay, and I have some other friends who are in the military. Now, you do know they are now mandated, I forget the date that has been set, that they have to be vaccinated or they're out of the military. What say you to that?
When you're in the military, you get a lot of injections and vaccinations
That's true.
that are mandatory.
True.
So
you're saying?
I think so on principle,
Yeah.
when you're in the military and they want everybody to get vaccinated against something, I think that's okay.
Okay.
I actually do. However, I think it might be a little bit early to be mandating the COVID vaccine.
Okay. And that was what I was going to jump you on right there.
So on principle, I would say yes. If you're in the military, that you're basically giving your life away when you join the military. You are. So yes, they do that for a lot of things. However, we're still a little new to this vaccine. It's probably a little early to be mandating it for everybody.
You said they give their lives away, and to a certain extent, that's true, but they don't give their constitutional rights away. And again, because this is still experimental, it's not FDA approved just yet. Now, chances are it's going to be pretty soon because the pressure's on to get it done. Then I'm saying nobody has a right to be forced to take an experimental medication or treatment, whether you're in the military or not.
I think it's a bad idea. I do.
Yeah.
I think it's a bad idea. Now, and again, when you're in the military, there are different rules that apply. Certain jobs you do, there are different rules that apply. But the bottom line is that if you're in the military and you don't want to take an anthrax vaccine, for instance, that was one that everybody got, then you have to get out.
Yeah, but the difference is, again,
this is not one that is known or there's a lot that people don't know about.
History, it's been studied and approved.
And I think the vaccine is great. I think it's wonderful. I think it has basically saved the world from COVID. I do. But that doesn't mean that there aren't side effects, and it doesn't mean that there aren't a lot of things that they don't yet know about it.
Now, there's another vaccine coming out called Novavax, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And it was created along more traditional vaccine creation. These other two were done through experimental DNA.
It's like a DNA.
RNA type thing.
Yeah.
So the Novavax thing that's going to be coming out soon was created along standard creation of vaccines.
It's more like the flu vaccine where they take the virus and they break it.
And I would look at something like that myself and feel a whole lot more comfortable with it, depending upon how they finish. So again, for me, and as a Christian, as a person who believes in the Bible, even though I think a lot of people on our side sometimes get too conspiratorial about things, I do believe this sets a precedent. And when I say this mandate, especially the passports, set a precedent where governments around the world, not just our government, I mean, Australia has a much harder lockdown than we ever had. Okay, governments around the world literally are going to control every decision, private or otherwise, of your life. And that's the precedent that is troubling to me.
It's a weird thing, for a disease that has a very, very extremely high survival rate.
Yes.
And also, now that you have the vaccine, it's an even higher survival rate. It's a very strange thing to see the measures taken against this particular vaccine in this particular circumstance. Not this vaccine, this disease in this circumstance. It's very strange because, I'm sorry, but with the vaccine especially, we have lowered the death rate of this thing to be very, very low, very low. And the vast, 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 vast majority of people who ever died from it were 70 or 80 and up.
Yeah.
So to me, it's very strange that this particular virus, with its particular risk, has drawn this particular response. It is very infectious, which means it gets more people. And so, if the percentage stays the same, the actual number of people that are affected by it is bigger because it's so easily affected. But listen, I see online people that I know, doctors, nurses, and there's two different types. There's one type who is basically hands off, don't force the vaccine, it's not right to do it. These are very libertarian or conservative type nurses. There are other types who, they may even be conservative generally, but they are online saying, listen, I treated a perfectly healthy 25-year-old. He's intubated now. He's intubated. He's 25. He was perfectly healthy. And that's why everybody should get the vaccine and you should wear your masks and blah, 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 because of this 25-year-old that was perfectly healthy that is now very sick. And so I see that and I think to myself, you know what? Here's the thing. A adverse reaction to the vaccine is where you get seriously injured by the vaccine or killed by it, which some people have been, is extremely rare. It's very, very rare for that to happen, but it does happen. A 25-year-old that's perfectly healthy on a ventilator because of COVID is extremely rare, but it does happen.
Well,
these things do happen. And one thing with these doctors and nurses that are treating COVID patients, and I sympathize with them, and I understand they're going through a lot, but they have to understand their perspective. They see every COVID patient in their city. So a nurse that works in the ER, of course, is going to have a particular perception of the disease when they see every single COVID patient in the city come in. And they're not going in the ER unless they're pretty sick. And so they're going to view it as pretty serious. Joe the plumber, he's not going to see everybody that gets sick, but he does know somebody that got paralyzed by the vaccine, and so he's going to have his own perspective. Both of them see outliers, Cleve. You see what I'm saying?
I understand.
Both of them.
Here's the thing, and I'm in agreement with you on principle, and I also want to say this right now. Fear-mongering on both sides, to me, is uncalled for. Where there's fearful and just making people feel afraid of the vaccine, or where it's making people feel afraid to choose not to take it. I just think both of those sides are terrible. I'm in that middle ground that says freedom and liberty is the principle here. Let everybody be free to do what he or she feels is in the best interest of themselves, or in the case of children, in the best case of their children, because the vaccine now is being pushed towards kids.
It's funny you brought up children, because this is something I want to say sometimes that these, frankly, sometimes these doctors and nurses, they're coming off as a little snooty.
A little?
Because of their disdain for people that won't get vaccinated.
Right.
And I just want to say to them, you are not my daddy. You're not my daddy.
No,
we
I
make
agree.
our own decisions. You are a doctor, not a daddy.
Yeah.
So act like a doctor, not a daddy. I have a 2-year-old who does crazy stuff. Now, guess what? I don't let her stand up on the couch.
Yeah.
She wants to stand up on the couch. But you know what, Cleve? She will not get hurt standing on the couch. The reason I don't let her stand on the couch is not because she gets hurt when she stands on the couch. It's because she gets hurt when she falls off.
Okay.
So the reason I'm saying that is, if I'm your doctor, I say, don't stand on the couch because here are the risks.
Yeah. Right.
You could fall. All these kinds of things could happen. I recommend you don't stand on the couch, and then it's your decision whether or not to stand on the couch. If I'm your daddy, I say, get off the couch.
Well,
See what I'm saying?
I was going
It's different.
to add one thing to what you said. No, doctors, you're not our daddies, okay? You're not our mamas. But by the same token, you're not our kids' daddies and mamas either. And there is a push now for parents to make their kids be vaccinated, okay? It's not mandated yet, but that's there too. And again, I just say give people the information that we need, and then let us make a choice.
Make your own risk
Stop
assessment.
the fear-mongering on the right. Stop the fear-mongering on the left. Present the info and treat us as adults, and more important, as Americans with rights and liberties over our own bodies. Isn't it amazing how the pro-abortion folks can find a woman's right to her body, but can't find a person's right to their body with the idea of mandating this vaccine?
That is kind of weird.
Yeah, it's a real irony. So
We're running out of time, Cleve.
we're running a whole lot of time, and you brought up something that, well, I got to bring this up real quick. I'm sorry, David.
Do it.
Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas met privately with border agents in Texas, and he said something to them that was leaked, an audio of what he said. And here's what he said. Mayorkas said this. He said, now this is according to audio that was obtained, by the way, by Fox News. So we're talking about a legitimate news organization. He said, a couple of days ago, I was down in Mexico and I said, look, you know, if our borders are the first line of defense, we're going to lose. And this is unsustainable. We can't continue like this. Our people in the field can't continue, and our system isn't built for it. This is Mayorkas. Okay, this is the guy who's heading up our security there, and he didn't know that this audio was going to be leaked.
Hey, yo, Alejandro, we know.
Yes, but they never have acknowledged this before. Remember, there's no crisis there even now.
Yep.
And so I don't know how they're going to, because at the time of this particular podcast, we haven't heard the response on the Biden administration to this leaked audio. But this is damaging to them because for the longest they're saying everything's cool. We sent the vice president down there, of course, not at the right spot, but sent her down there. Everything's cool. And now we got this guy in their own cabinet saying, this is a mess. And we're not going to make it. So what do you say?
That's foreign policy mishap, domestic policy mishap at the same time because it has to do with the border. More foreign policy mishaps for the Biden administration is Afghanistan.
Oh.
This is really bad. The Taliban is taking back over the country very quickly.
I don't even disagree with the decision to leave Afghanistan. To me,
I do.
But here's the point. I disagree with doing it now, and I disagree with doing it in the way he did it. He did it.
Yeah.
Once he made the decision, he did it. They were so precipitously, even the Afghan government didn't have a chance to react to it.
Remember why we're there. It's because the Taliban created a safe haven for terrorists to launch terrorist attacks against our country. Yeah. And what's going to happen is the Taliban is going to take the country back over, and they're going to, again, create a safe haven for other terrorist groups. It's going to come back to bite us. The same thing is going to happen. The Biden administration, Jen Psaki is out there saying, like, well, the Taliban has to – I heard this audio from a press conference. She said the Taliban has to decide what they want their role to be in the world. And I'm thinking, I think they kind of have decided that they don't really want to be among the nations.
Right.
The Taliban is not a group that's going to be going to join the G8, NATO.
So that's diplomat speech
it's
right there.
It's so stupid.
It has nothing to do with
it's
reality.
Dumb.
Yeah.
They are not a group.
If they don't play nice, they won't get a seat at the table of nations.
You think they care about that? They don't care about that. It's so dumb.
But my point is,
it's going to hurt our country.
However you feel about them leaving Afghanistan, the way that Biden did it, I mean, literally, he jerked the rug out from under the Afghans, saying, they can take care of things. And it immediately put them in a position where right now, at this point, as you and I are talking, 2/3 of Afghanistan has already fallen to the Taliban.
And the reason this is important is because there were no war casualties for the last couple years in Afghanistan. It was not a active war. It was basically a peacekeeping operation where we would launch drones and stuff like that. It was good.
Yeah.
Maybe an unpopular opinion, but it was good for us to be there, keeping the Taliban at bay, because what's going to happen, I'm telling you, is that we're going to have another ISIS-type situation over there where they're going to be able to reach out to the entire world from Afghanistan because of this move. And guess what? I heard on the way in, I was listening to a news broadcast, that China has reached out to the Taliban,
of course,
to recognize them as the government of that country if they do take Kabul. China.
Yeah. China basically
really
was telling them is basically, you got our support.
Yeah.
And not only that, but look at the message it sends. The way Biden did this, even though I don't think it would have been, it would have looked this way under other circumstances, it looks like they kicked our tail and we ran, and we are still running. I mean, now they're talking about bringing some more troops back over there, by the way. But,
we haven't even left all the way,
Yeah,
and they're already talking about bringing troops back in because our embassy is under threat.
The difference in the foreign policy posture of the two administrations could not be more different. On the one hand, we're in control. We're putting peace things in the Middle East. We're respected again. And now we're back to the Obama days when the red line is imaginary and nothing we do makes any sense.
Well, and I will mention, too, that Obama and Trump both said we were pulling out of Afghanistan, but didn't.
Right.
And you know why? Because they recognized what was going to happen if they did.
Yeah.
Once they got into the office and they saw what was happening on the ground.
I think Trump would eventually have done it and was planning to do it. Again, there's a way to do something like this, and Biden just turned tail and just ran. And
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Biden, instead of realizing the reality on the ground and adjusting the plan and the process, he was just like, well, my left flank, they're saying we got to get out of there. It doesn't really matter what happens.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter what the result is.
Right.
The only thing that matters is that we get out of there.
Yeah.
And that's not the only thing that matters, because bad things you're going to have women being mutilated in the streets of Afghanistan.
Yes.
Children being killed because they want to go to school.
All
girls.
the so-called progress that feminists thought,
and this is going to happen. This will happen.
It's going to be taken away. Now, we just used up all of our time, so we can't go to your. We'll go back to your point maybe next podcast. I promise it. David Perry and I'm Cleve Walker. David, as always, this program is on demand. How and where?
Yeah, check it out on Apple Podcasts, your app on your phone, or you can go to Facebook. You can find us there and listen to the whole podcast, also on YouTube.
Yeah, and join that and make your comments on the Facebook page. We'd love to see that as well. Have a great day. For Cleve Walker and David Perry, this has been Mere Conservatism. Bye-bye.